hit me, no.
Be done still. That's all you. Hi! I'm so glad you're here. About 6 months ago, I put out a video where I make an outfit I saw in my dreams, and I was a little hesitant to share it because generally people don't like hearing about other people's dreams, or at least that's my understanding. But people seemed to really like that concept and the result, which I'm wearing the corset I made in that video. And since you all liked that concept, and I do too, I went through a lot of my dream journal entries that I still have access to anyway, read through a ton of them, found some descriptions of different outfits, put them in a list, and added to it with other dreams that I've had in the last 6 months. And now I have quite the list of dream outfits to make. And I thought about making it like a yearly project, but I don't think I can wait that long before making another one, so we're gonna make one. And this one is actually a combination of 2 different dresses I've seen in 2 different dreams, 7 years apart. This is a drawing I did of the older one. I didn't have a ton of details in this description. It said something like plain gray silver dress. So that's a plain gray silver dress. It is what it is. And I couldn't remember much about that dream, so I didn't think that would be a good option for the dream outfit series. If there's kind of no fun detail to it, it's just a gray dress. However, more recently, I had another dream where there was a woman wearing a silver shining dress. And this one was way more interesting to look at. It had very long flowy sleeves, it had silver accents, she had white hair and white glowing eyes, and she had more details than the other one did. And the dream was like watching a movie switching between first person and third person points of view, watching a group of tourists go to a roadside attraction. It was like an abandoned town type thing, maybe in the Southwest, except when they were in the main theater, their consciousness left their bodies and were urged to explore all of the doors in this building. Behind each door, depending on the person, was either a memory of their past, an analysis of their present situation, or a prediction for their future based on the track that they're going currently. Very Christmas Carol-y kind of, but the character I was seeing all this happen through was not me, it was some other woman. She was for some reason more aware of what was happening, kind of like lucid dreaming, and she could choose whatever door to go through and was questioning why this was happening. And after peeking through some of the doors of the other people, she noticed a glow in the back of the theater where she found this woman floating in the air with a silver dress, her eyes glowing white. And she was like a sleep goddess, some sort of entity that was making these people experience these things. And the energy she gave off was not angry or sad, but more of a determined and disappointed. It was very strange, but very interesting with different time periods behind the doors, and it was a weird dream, but it was fun. And while the first version is kind of more wearable, which is something I want to stop saying because anything is wearable if I choose to wear it. And that's the kind of energy I want to take into the rest of the year. So the first version is more plain. The second version, she's a lot, but if we combine the two and make some of the elements removable, then we can have the best of both worlds. So I have gone ahead and combined the designs into this. The sleeves will just be an elastic band at the top so that they can be removed, and all of the little silver shiny accents will be some sort of piece that can be removed. I'm thinking right now of a beaded sort of netting type little shawl thing because I have a bunch of pearls and silver bead strands that I thrifted, so I think that could be something really cool. Now when I say a gray silver dress, I mean like a silver that's like really shiny, and it turns out that I thrifted the perfect bedsheet for this last summer without even knowing what I was going to do with it. It's shiny silver. What did I use? Oh, I made a bandana. I used to have a pillowcase to go with it, but I made a bandana for an Ida, the owl lady, Disney bound. So I only have the flat sheet, but I do think it's queen sized, so I should have plenty of fabric to play with. I had also thrifted this glittery silver material. I'm not sure how much is here. The problem is I don't want to use them together because they don't exactly match. I think we're gonna save the glittery gray for another day. I missed. So yeah, this is the plan, this is the material, and I'm gonna get to work. But first I put a poncho on because I was cold. Then I went through all of my patterns and decided that the top should be my Bridgerton bodice, and for the skirt I was going to alter this basic skirt pattern to flare out a little bit more at the bottom by adding a circle skirt pattern to the bottom only, hoping that that would give me a sort of mermaid flare. And then of course I had to have my dramatic robe sleeves that I made for my Agatha Harkness dress. And before I got sewing I had to fix my overlocking machine because it wasn't quite working and I didn't know why, but I just rethreaded it and then it was fine. Alright, the skirt is mainly sewn together. I still need to finish all the edges and trim hem the bottom. The top is also assembled mostly, but I still have to hem the neckline and the armholes. But I'm losing it because it's very late, so I'm gonna call it a night and I'll see you tomorrow. Hello. It's the next day. I don't know how they look, but if I'm wiping my eyes, it's not because I'm crying, it's because my eyes have not stopped watering all day. Well, hello. Are you helping? I have specifically a lot of hemming to do, and then I'll put the two pieces together, and then I'll start on those sleeves, which I haven't done anything on yet. But they should be pretty simple. All I have to do is add an elastic band at the top and hem the bottom, and then once the dress is all done, I'll move on to that accessory of the like beaded shawl cowl thing. I don't know exactly what to call it, but we'll try to make it cool. But first we have to finish the dress, so I'm gonna go do that. I started sewing and the bodice was admittedly a little messy, and I tried my best to fix it, especially as far as the fit was concerned. I put some darts in. And then I attached the pieces together, tried it on, and it just was sitting still very strangely, even on the dress form. But I thought maybe I just needed to take a break from it, so I moved on to the sleeves and finished those up very quickly because they were very easy to make. But then I tried everything on again, and I still wasn't convinced. Well, I did get a lot done. It's fully assembled. However, I don't like it. I think I'm gonna remake the bodice. It's a little too short, and with the length of the skirt that it is, looks more like a baby doll dress, which is not what I was going for. So I'm probably gonna remake the bodice. Even though this material is a nightmare to work with. It is very pretty, it is very shiny, it is very silky smooth. However, it is not fun to work with. Very fun to wear, not fun to work with. Even the sleeves aren't quite what I wanted. They're not as big and dramatic as I would have liked, and I don't know, I think it might be also the material. It just seems like when I've made these sleeves in the past, the flowiness and the thinness of the material is what makes it feel and look a little bit more dramatic, and this has surprisingly a little more body to it. Oh, I did play around with the beads a little bit, but we'll play around with that some more tomorrow. I'll also remake the bodice tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Hello. It's the next day. It's not the next day. Yeah, it's the day after the next day. It doesn't matter. Today I'm going to remake the bodice with a different pattern. I think it just needs to be longer, and I think that'll help me get closer to what I envisioned. I kind of wish there was a little bit more to the sleeves, but I really don't want to take them apart. So I think they're dramatic enough to fulfill the vision. Are they as dramatic as I could make them? Definitely not, but I think they're enough. And then I'd like to finally put together the beaded cowl shawl thing. I have a lot to do, so I'm going to go take this apart and put it back together, but better, hopefully. Remaking the bodice with a pattern I'd used a lot in the past was very helpful because it was done pretty quickly, and after a few alterations it was ready to be put onto the skirt, but I still needed to separate the other two pieces before I could do that. After a lot of seam ripping, I finally attached the top to the bottom, and then the dress was technically done at that point. However, after adding these decorative stitches and looking at the front and how bare it was, I decided to make myself some more work and do some decorative beading on the front of the bodice. I don't know why, but I have been on a beading kick lately, and I'll have to make a short about that another time, but this was just so much fun to do, just putting little decorations wherever I wanted. After that was done, it was time to put the beaded necklace shawl thing together, and after some trial and error, I finally got it to work. Alrighty. After multiple revisions on the dress, on the beads, and after adding some beaded embroidery that I wasn't really going to do at first, but then I just kind of felt like doing it, everything is done. So it's time for the reveal. We got there in the end. My expectations for this project were to sew this in a day. That did not happen, clearly, for multiple reasons. But I'm actually glad that I took more time because I like the beading that I did on the front of the dress, which was not a part of the plan, but I'm glad I did it because I think it adds just a little bit of something. And I like little bits of something. I think if I had made the sleeves a bit more dramatic and also lined them with an iridescent fabric, I don't have any more of that, but I think if I had lined it with something or created like a ruffle, it would have hidden the seam a lot better because that seam is very, very visible every time I lift my hands. So that's one thing I would fix. I'm glad I made the sleeves removable because I like the dress on its own and I think I'll definitely be able to wear it because it is nice and comfortable. I did not hem it. After sewing this together, the thought of either hemming it or putting bias tape over it, I could not be bothered. This material, as cool as it is, was incredibly difficult to work with. I love how it looks, but it just, I think if I had put a lining in the bodice, that the fit would have been better, the fabric would have sit better, but I did not put in a lining. It sits a little bit strangely. I also didn't put a zipper in so I could slide it over my head, which is my preferred way to make things, and that's actually how I make a lot of my dresses. There are still some dents and imperfections in the fabric because it was a thrifted bed sheet, and maybe here and there I'll just add some more beading onto the imperfections to kind of cover them up because I think that'd be kind of fun and pretty and cute and harder to wash, but I think worth it as far as looks go. My plan to Frankenstein two patterns together for the skirt was, I would say, only half successful. It didn't give me the shape I wanted. I think I'm gonna have to get a pattern to get the shape that I wanted. I wanted it to kind of flare out at the bottom, and I thought by making the skirt pattern flare out at the bottom that I could achieve that. I don't know if it's the fabric or the way I made the pattern, but it didn't work. It just kind of leaves these weird divots in the skirt that only come out when I'm twirling really fast. So I'll have to get a pattern for that kind of skirt silhouette if I ever want to do it in the future. Which brings me to a small PSA. Be careful buying patterns on Etsy. I tried to look for a pattern for this dress before I started. I think I searched fantasy dress first or medieval style dress pattern first, and I knew that there were going to be AI generated options that would come up. However, there were even more present than the last time I searched for a dress pattern. So I wanted to share some red flags that I look for when I'm looking for patterns on Etsy to sort out if they're AI generated or not. Number one is the hands on the model. Much like myself whenever I'm drawing something, it most likely can't get the hands right. Just something about it. Number two, the eyeballs. Sometimes the eyeballs will look like somebody took a blender tool, like they blurred the pupil and the iris together. It just looks very strange. It just sometimes can't do it. So always look at the models very closely to see if they look like a real person. Sometimes you don't need to look that closely. It's pretty obvious at first glance, but sometimes they look pretty good. Number three is odd text. It's really strange and interesting how our brains will fill in gaps of information, because at first glance, I could read this poster just fine. But then I looked at it for longer than a second and realized that those aren't words. They're attempts at words, but they're not words. And not even just like words in a different language. It's trying to do English words. They're not words. Look through all of the slides that are on the listing something if you're not sure from the first page. In a lot of these clearly AI generated pattern shops, the second slide would be some stock footage of someone sewing. Then the like third and fourth and fifth would be pictures of the pattern. And then further down in the listing, maybe slide 6 or 7, that's when the weird text starts popping up. And sometimes they'll have one that they might have written themselves. The AI didn't mess up or was edited by the person after. However, keep scrolling because that's when it gets weird. You'll also see the size charts most likely in the listing, and there could be spelling mistakes there or just weird font things, but I don't necessarily determine if it's AI from that because I feel like sometimes that can be a translation issue. So I look for the really weird text because for whatever reason they just can't help themselves but to show either more AI generated art that are supposed pattern or these posters, which are supposed to convince you, I think, that they're a real. I thought about doing a video where I actually test AI generated patterns to see if they were any good. However, I'm not a big supporter of generative AI, and I don't really want to give any of those shops my money because they're taking up a huge amount of space on the platform. People who have actually taken the time to develop their own patterns, make their own clothing, I would much rather continue to support them than an AI generated shop for any reason. And it's actually such a shame because the reason I clicked on the pattern to begin with was because this fantasy dress pattern went up to a 4XL, which in my experience is uncommon. I wear anything between a 1X to a 3X, depending on the garment. I know I've said it in the past, I could rant about women's fashion sizing all day long, but a lot of the dress patterns that I find on Etsy often go up to a 2X, but even when I do find one that goes up to a 2XL, the measurement chart almost never lines up with my body measurements, not even close. So I end up not getting them because according to the sizing chart, it's not gonna work for me, and I don't know if I'll be able to effectively size it up for myself. So it's a shame that the AI generated patterns are the most size inclusive in theory, but they are AI generated, and because of that I'm just not sure about that, and I'm unwilling to give my time or money to test it out. My PSA turned into a little bit of a rant. But with Joann's closing and people losing a pattern resource, I just wanted to put that out there that if you're starting to get sewing or if you are already somebody who sews their clothes, be wary of patterns on Etsy because there are a lot of AI generated patterns. But I'm gonna stop ranting and wrap this up, or I'm gonna be here a while. I like the dress, I like the beads. They can actually be reconfigured into something else if I ever want to in the future. So I really like how this turned out, and if you do too, you can let me know by hitting the like button. And if you want to see what I'm doing next and join the channel, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know when I post, hit the notification bell and YouTube will let you know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!